Blue Collar Millionaires, we're back again, and we're going to talk about sales without being sleazy. Problem is instead of focusing on the elements they should be focusing on, they're focused on their pocketbook, and the customer feels that immediately.
Selling through education and information over high sales tactics.
Here's your problem, here's the solution. Just like if you went to the doctor.
You just repeat what they say, and they feel heard, and they'll just keep going.
And the company's profitable, it can afford the continuing education, the best tools, the best equipment, building the morale of the team, and who benefits from all that is the customer.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
All right, Blue Collar Millionaires, we're back again, and we're going to talk about sales without being sleazy. I love the little saying commission breath. Yeah, and we've all experienced that, whether you were walking into like a Radio Shack or the car lot or an appliance sales place. They have those salespeople that are out there and they're working off of commission, and that's where that commission breath came from. And the problem is instead of focusing on the elements they should be focusing on, they're focused on their pocketbook, and the customer feels that immediately. There's a great book out there, The Ultimate Sales Machine, Chet Holmes. We both read that, Kevin, and both loved it because it made a ton of sense. And we really just loved the theology behind it. So what was some of the things that stuck out to you from that book?
Selling through education and information over high sales tactics. I mean, I came up in the early 90s. That was the high pressure sales, boiler room. It was all over the place. Everybody was doing it. Nobody wants to be sold. People, especially in this day and age, people want information. Chet Holmes talks about that. He had like lunch and learns. Yeah. He was doing it way before anybody. He was selling for Charlie Munger as Warren Buffett's partner. I mean, right. He was super, super high level guy making millions of dollars 40 years ago in sales. That I think having information, I think my proposals, like the way I do it is I figured out all the questions they were going to ask over time, and then I answer them all in there. Everybody wants that. I want them to read it, look at the price, all the info's there, and then the authoritative bias of these guys do so many of these. It's comfortable, it's easy, the guarantee feels real, because most guarantees feel like bullshit. Yeah. I tell them, if you're not happy, just don't pay. We'll avoid it. Yeah. Nobody ever says it. Like, I make it super easy to say yes to it, and I haven't even talked to them. We don't talk to them most of the time. I just want them to say, here's 4 different prices. This one is good. It's not about price. It's about the package.
Yeah. I like getting on that. It's just like we're sitting on the same side of this table, and most sales processes have the customer, the prospect sitting on the other side of the table, and there's a level of mistrust there. And as soon as you feel like you've opened up the doors and you're extremely transparent on what you're doing and why you're doing it, then the guard drops down. Everybody's guard is immediately up. When you walk into the department store, any type of brick and mortar, I know we're getting away from that and everything's bought off Amazon at this point, but there's still brick and mortar stores. You walk in, they're like, how can I help you today? Oh, I'm just looking. That's the automatic response, and that's our default. And I've heard Jeremy Miner talk about how, that's a pattern, and you've got to get into those pattern interrupts so that you break your prospect away from their default mode. And so as soon as you sit there and you start asking them what brought them in today instead of, is there anything I can help you with? That's a completely different question that they normally, compared to what they normally get. So now it triggered a thought response. And then now at that point, they're saying, well, we're just browsing. Let's say they're at a car lot. We're just browsing for a car for her. It might point to the daughter. And it's like, oh, is this your first car? And now you've got a point of conversation piece, and you can start working yourself in as a guide instead of as a salesperson. When we send our, strategically, we call our salespeople solutions experts. And so we send them out to the home to do healthy home inspections. They're out there looking for problems that might be causing the trigger, the pain that made the customer call us. So in our situation, it would be mold. They're not feeling good. They might have concerns about mold, seeing mold. So we send a solutions expert out. They go through and they document. They're using instruments. and they're checking everything out. They're taking pictures. Then they stick those pictures into a presentation form. And then they say, hey, here's what I found. This is why you should be concerned about it. This is what needs to be done to fix this. This is what could happen if you don't fix it and you delay the maintenance on this or the repair on this. This is why you should fix it right now, and these are the benefits that it's going to be to you and your family. This is what we can do to do this, and this is how we do it differently than the average contractor. This is what it's going to look like when we're done, and would you like a down payment of or a monthly payment of? And then they'll tell you if they want to go the direction of the financing. And you walk that path. But at no point did I sit there and come across as a salesperson trying to sell my agenda. It was, here's your problem, here's the solution. Just like if you went to the doctor says, what are your symptoms? And then once you give your symptoms, then he starts to give you your prescription. And you don't ever sit there and say, well, why that prescription? And you don't ask for a second quote on the prescription. You take the prescription. Why? Because you know or feel like they had your best interest, because they asked you questions of what was bothering you, and then they said, here's the solution to solve the problem that's bothering you, compared to trying to sell snow to the Eskimo.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is just listening.
Yeah.
I like watching the sales guys come over my house. They're trying to, like, they don't listen a lot of times. They're waiting for you to stop so they can just go. And they got to listen. I used to do something mirroring.
Yeah.
I read a book in the early 90s, and I thought it was kind of silly, but I realized I had been doing that with my mom. My mom was kind of like, like a difficult mom.
Yeah.
Start yelling at you about stuff. And I would just like listen to her and like, okay, so you want us to clean up, get everything done before we go to the pool.
Yeah.
And then we go to the pool, no problem. I would just repeat it back to her. She never thought I was being a wise ass or anything. Wow. And then I was like, I'm going to start doing that. I read this book. I start doing it to customers. It's crazy when it happens. You just repeat what they say and they feel heard, and they'll just keep going because they're like, in their mind, subconsciously thinking, this guy's listening to me.
Right.
And they just do it. And then I just, of course, at some point, you're just listening for solutions.
Right.
They say, hey, if this was my home, this is what I would do. And sometimes I throw in something like, are you not moving soon, are you? And they're like, no, why? I'd say, oh, if you were moving, I wouldn't even do it.
Yeah.
Save my money. Right. Since you're not.
Right.
They love stuff like that. I'm always on their side, but I am just trying to help them. But when people are always trying to just sell you and they're not explaining why you need it, people feel like they're being sold to, and then they recoil.
Right.
You have to always have a reason why.
Something I noticed when I hired salespeople and I took myself out of it, I started realizing they sold stronger than I did. And the reason they sold stronger than I did is because I always felt like I can move on pricing. And they had no feeling of being able to adjust pricing. So if there was a pricing objection, then the price is what it is. So they didn't take it as a pricing objection. They took it as, well, I didn't explain something well enough. And if they're saying someone else is able to get it cheaper, then they don't realize why we are what we are. Me, I knew what all the numbers looked like. So I thought, well, I can sit here and change it. I get that friend discount. And it always made me feel like I was in a more vulnerable state. After I realized that, now when I go to sell, the pricing is never an issue because the pricing is set so that the company is profitable. And when the company's profitable, it can afford the continuing education, the best tools, the best equipment, building the morale of the team. And who benefits from all that? It's the customer. At the end of the day, the customer benefits from the company being profitable. When that mentality changed with me, I didn't care what the price was as long as I knew that there was the amount of profit that needed to be built. And so when I went to present, all I was listening for was, how do I solve their problem? Because there's a problem in all of these words, but they don't have a clear, they don't know how to communicate it clearly. But if I can help them communicate it clearly, then I'll be able to give them a solution. And it's not about me trying to get the most price. It's about me solving their issue and both of us walking away with a win-win. They get their issue solved and I get an exchange of money for it. And that's something that I really noticed when I stepped away and started seeing my salespeople go in the door, because they didn't have the ability to adjust pricing. And I think a lot of owner-operator founders have that issue on their pricing structure, and this is why they get caught up into that lowest bid. Well, all of these low ballers are in the market and they're taking all of the customers, and how do you compete with that? Well, you're not competing on price. You have to compete on value. And if you'll forget, price is not something you can adjust based off the customer you're talking to. It's what's problem you're solving, and you got to identify that by listening, like you said.
Yeah. Let's talk about when I see a lot of guys in our community say, oh, they want to talk the price down. They don't want to pay it. What should I do on that? I really never negotiate. I'll negotiate a little, but I always have to. If I'm going to give you this, I got to get this.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm going to do we'll just say it's gutter cleaning for an apartment complex, I could do that, but then I got to sign you on for 2 years, and I'll lock you into that rate. But because that will save me time going back and forth with you and everything. People then they feel like they're getting a hookup, and then I need to get something. But when I was just doing one-on-one sales, I always say it in a way, Mike, I could do that. The problem with that is we're so behind. We're already backed up.
Yeah.
Like 3.5 weeks.
Well, you got a different problem. Yeah.
Yeah. But they feel it off me. But I used to do that even when I wasn't busy.
Yep.
I'd say the problem with that is we're already booked up 3.5 weeks.
Yep.
So now I'm putting you in a place with somebody, and I said, it's just a demand issue. I can't, there's only one of me. I like to be there. I like to do a great job. You can fit whatever you want. I said, there's guys out here. They need work. There's companies out here. You could find somebody to get out here. But for me, that's the price we do it. I don't like when guys start talking about their insurance and all this stuff. Like, nobody gives a shit. But people do care about, you're already packed. You're busy. And if I miss this opportunity, I might not get them back. And then I'm kind of subtly letting them know, you can take one of those Chuck in the truck guys. They'll jack up your house, but they'll be there on Monday. We'll give you a price. I don't say all that, but as I do it, they almost always cave on that.
I think the more professionalized you can look in your delivery, I noticed this when you were telling your lead marketing sequence of where you would get the contacts of the cold prospect, and then you would reach out, and the way you set the subject line up, and you delivered. There was like an aerial map, and then you circled what was theirs, and then you said, here's what we do, and then you dropped an entire list of references. All of these, you were answering their questions, and so you were earning trust before you even had the conversation with them, and there was dialogue back and forth. And so that's why, like with our solutions experts, when they show up, they have a average contractor material, then they have our material, then they have a couple of client testimonials, then they also flip through briefly on their presentation, and they just go over, hey, we're IICRC certified, and then we're also Better Business Bureau. All of this is building trust. At the end of the day, people don't buy because they didn't see the value and they didn't feel like they could trust you. And I honestly think most of it is built into trust. Do I believe that I'm getting the best value, the best deal?
Yep.
And that's not price. The best deal means I'm hands off. I paid you enough to where I don't have to get involved, and I know I'm getting a premium. This is why people love to brag. I had a lady at one of my networking events, and I said, "That's a great looking dress." I said, "It looks great on you." I was trying to say it where I didn't sound like a chump, saying it to her. But she said, "Thank you," and then she immediately went right into, I got this at so-and-so, and I only paid $25 for it. And she felt the need to talk about the good deal she got on it. And I think that's another default of humans, is we always need the justification of why we bought something when it's brought up. And it might be that I could afford this big price, or I got this best deal, or I've got one of only a few. And because it allows us to separate ourselves from the crowd. If we feel like that we overpaid, then it's a chump. I heard Alex Hormozy say this, and he said, I paid a whole lot. I think it was for the building that they moved their business into. And the guy told me, I just want you to know, at the closing table, he said, I just want you to know I wouldn't have taken a penny less than what you offered. The offer was accepted in the beginning, which made Alex feel like he left some money on the table. And then the seller at the closing table said, I wouldn't have taken a penny less. And he said, that made me feel so much better and it validated my purchase. And I never thought about what I spent again. And I thought the psychology behind the buyer is so important to understand. And this is why you have to come in and you have to find the solution, the problem, so you can bring the solution. Then you have to build enough trust to know that they're getting the best deal, not the best price, the best deal. And that is a full 360 of, is it solving the problem fully? Is it going to be reliable? Can it be trusted? Are they just getting the best of the best if they're paying a premium price?
Yeah. And people want to feel like they're getting a deal on the hookup. So here's one thing you could do. You could do it on any type of maintenance thing. Whatever, say your price you want is $50 per lawn cutting. And so I would do it like this. This is how I did it back in the day. Say it was $50. The grass is high. So maybe I want to get 80 or something for it. I say, listen, if I do it every week and we sign on, it's 50. If I do it just a one time, it's $100 the first time. And then, when I come back, it's $70 per person. And they go, whoa, what's the 50? Why is it only 50? I say, well, and they say it's 50 the first time. It says 50 for good. You're signed on for the year. Like everybody takes that. I always do that. I do it with the gutter cleaning for the apartment complexes. We want $4,000. That's where our price is at, $3,980. And then we talk about that one time at $5,200. Who wants to take that then?
Yeah.
It's just in their mind. They feel like they're getting a deal.
Yeah.
Or I used to say, knowing they wanted their lawn cut on the Thursday or Friday, I'm there anyway. I'm doing the neighbors. I say, hey, it's $50. It's $50 if you do it on Thursday, $65 on any other day because I'm not here. I'll do the 50. I wanted the 50. I want to do it on Thursday. But they feel like they go back in and a lot of people, they need to feel that.
Yeah.
They need to feel like they got a deal and they won.
So I've never given anything away for just the fact of someone's asked for a deal. Anytime they ask for a deal, it is always okay, do you want to take this off or this off? Or, well, I tell you what, and I heard this from our buddy Shy, and I was like, that is so good. And you got to back it up when you make these offers, okay? But I literally did this after I heard it with the customer, and she needed a cheaper price. We couldn't get her on financing. She had limited financing that would cover. And so I said, I tell you what, I'm going to talk to my management, and I'm going to see if we can just get you approved for your neighborhood to be a portion of our marketing expense. Occasionally, we are able to have a homeowner in the neighborhood if we haven't already done one in that neighborhood, and we put the yard sign, and then they have to give us 3 to 5 referrals in that neighborhood. And that right there is an exchange for the discount, which we see it as a marketing expense. So we're just taking marketing dollars from Google and we're going to give it to you so that we can hit you where you need to be. But I do need my 3 referrals, and I also need the yard sign to be able to sit into your yard the next 3 months. And so that exchange justified why we did the discount. Always has to be a justification. Otherwise, you're just throwing dollar marks out there, and then that discredits your credibility.
Yeah, and people don't understand if it's a $500 job and they take $100 off, like you're doing it for free.
Yeah, that's huge.
Or say you make $150 in profit. I mean, you just gave away 67% of your profit. You think it says I just gave 100, but you really gave 67% of your profit. And a lot of guys, they don't know their numbers. They go in, they just want to get jobs. They just want to stay busy. Don't do that. That's a horrible idea.
Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all tune back in on next week. We've got a special guest coming in. Don't want you to miss it. Check us out on Blue Collar Millionaire Facebook group. Got over 200,000 members in there, all different types of industries, an amazing resource. And if you want more hands-on and communication with me and Kevin, then go to bluecollarmillionaire.net, bluecollarmillionaire.net. This is where you can see where we're going to be hosting dinners and possibly a city that you live in. And then also you can check out our Boardroom Elite. And this is where you can get weekly interaction with us, where we come together with all of the other entrepreneurs in Boardroom Elite. And we talk about strategies that we have actually used, as well as the other entrepreneurs in there, on how to grow and take our businesses to an exit.